All right, so this is more of a correction to some of the things that I've been saying in regards to a character that's known as Francis Neely in the season one of Reacher, in regards to this character, whether or not they actually exist in the book. Okay, so I am actually in the sixth book of the Reacher series, and the book is called Without Fail. And I don't want to spoil anything that's going on in that book. But I did want to make mention that the character does exist in the book series, but is not in Killing Floor, as I had mentioned repeatedly throughout as we go. So, them making the decision to bring her into the show already is kind of I don't want to say it's confusing. It's something that, if you read the book, you would know that this character is not a thing in the book. However, you go ahead and get to the sixth book in the series, you get introduced to her. And she does have a connection to Reacher. Their relationship's a bit different. The character in the book, when she looks at Reacher, she has an attraction to him, but she was also born with it's kind of like a phobia. It's not, I don't know if you would try to call it a mental disorder. The one thing that she hates is to be touched by anybody. And they had, made mention about her condition, whether or not it was derived from trauma. She says that it's something that she's always had, or it's Reacher says that it's something that she's always had since she was born. She doesn't like to be touched by anybody, and it's kind of the reason why she doesn't act on her impulses or attractiveness to Reacher. The description of her also in the book is she has dark eyes and dark hair, and she has a tan. So the casting of the character that plays her isn't necessarily a bad choice. It's just that the character didn't exist in that story whatsoever. There's one other thing about Neely's character. The author apparently has said it as such, and again, I'm listening to the audiobooks, and I believe the pronunciation of her name is not Neely in the books, it's Nagley. So um, there's a little bit of difference there, but I did want to correct if you hear me going on during the review here, me saying that this character does not exist in the book. It's a made up character. This is why I was saying that, is because she doesn't actually appear until you get to the sixth book in the series. Along with that, that's where the 1/10 gets mentioned and that she was a member of that. So that is correct in what they're saying in the TV series. It's just not something chronologically that's come up at how the story unfolds in the books. Other than that, I'll go ahead and let you get on with the rest of the review here. Oops. All right. Welcome back to my channel. This is Jason, also known as Ominous Prime. Today we're going to be taking a look at Reacher Season 1, Episode 7. We're doing something a little bit different this week. What I intend to do, provided that we don't have any copyright claims to slow us down, is to go ahead and get the rest of the season completed here. So that's Episode 7 and Episode 8. That's what's left. And I'll see about getting those out to you this week, so you don't have to wait any longer. And if you've been following along with this series, I do appreciate it. Again, we're going to be comparing Reacher Season 1 with the book that's called Killing Floor. That's from Lee Child. And that book was originally set just after the Cold War had ended. Reacher is out of the military. He was a police officer, military police, and he was in the army for 13 years. Doing that kind of work. They've made some alterations when they had to go ahead and move it over to the TV series format for a modern audience. So there's been updates to technology, some story changes, what a modern audience would expect to have in their TV series. We're going to go ahead and get this started here. And as I've done recently, this is to help avoid those copyright claims. There won't be any audio from the show playing during this. This is also going to be edited down. There are going to be spoilers, so if you haven't watched the series and you're curious about it, go watch the series first. It's on Amazon Prime Video, and this is an Amazon original, so you're not going to find it anywhere else. I still think it's worth your while to go ahead and take a look at the book. It's actually very good, and there's a lot more exploration in the different characters that are involved in the story here. No more chit-chatting about that. We're going to go ahead and get the episode started, so here we go. Now, this is the cousins of Charlie and Paul Hubble. And this is his wife. This is the first time we're seeing her here. In the book, we don't actually get to meet her in this way. And I'll go over that here in a little bit. I think they should leave. I think they should go now. Put on your clothes. Pack up. Leave. Now, last episode we left, we had Reacher taking out a Venezuelan operative that was coming after him. Now we're back in Margrave, and we have the cleaning crew showing up here, but most cleaning crews don't show up with a crowbar. All right, we're back in Atlanta. This is where Reacher's getting back, and yes, he's bought new clothes because he doesn't do laundry. He just chucks the clothes that he has, tends to buy cheap clothes, and gets rid of them because he travels light. Now we have a flashback. We didn't have one last episode, which was weird because they had been doing them consistently with each episode. Kind of taking care of business on the base here in Okinawa. I'll tell you straight off, this is not what Okinawa looks like. The vegetation is completely different. Base housing does not look like this. And I was there in the 80s, and I believe that that's when he was set there. Now we have Finley showing up here in the loaner vehicle, while the Bentley is getting some window tinting done. Here we go. Now this is the part they don't know. So this is Kleiner's funeral. That's Kleiner Sr. This is not an event in the book. See Mayor Teal there, who is also acting as the police chief or police sheriff. Forget off the top of my head which one they go with here. I think it's sheriff. There's Thing 2. I think he's not in the book. That's what I think. Reacher wisely staying back. And then we have Kleiner Jr. there. Now, it's a bit weird here because they said that they needed to lay low and switch out the vehicles, right? Now they're switching the vehicles back. And the other part of it is switching it back early. Yeah, rock stars. More of that counterfeit money being paid out. So they're on Hollow Notes. Again, there's some deviation here because they killed off Kleiner Sr. All right, so they just saw the scene. Now, Finley was also not fired in the book. This just frees up Finley to do whatever he wants to do on the show. I don't know. It's a weird choice. Yeah, so Stevenson wasn't crucified. He was tied to a chair along with his wife, and he was made to watch his wife be tortured and killed. They had set up mirrors all around them so that no matter where he looked, he was going to be seeing what was going on with his wife. Finley feels guilty, thinking that he brought Stevenson in, that they might have been able to see what was going on. Ah, peach pie. The peach pie thing is not in the book, but I find it very entertaining, the way they've been doing this. What it does is it builds up some FOMO for Reacher. Yeah, that's what that means. This guy here is your typical what they put in studio, or when I say studios, I'm talking about Hollywood, as far as a Southern police officer. No, the first time I watched this, I was really confused for a moment. It's a little bit bizarre. And what happens here doesn't happen in this way. This actually happens a bit earlier in the book. In fact, I believe it happened shortly after Roscoe's house was broken into in the book while they were out in Alabama, in order to make Roscoe feel a little bit more at ease, because in the book, she's having a hard time dealing with this as far as people coming after her, coming into her home. So she's upset. She's not hysterical, but she's upset about it, and she's trying to keep it together. And Reacher's trying to be reassuring about the whole thing. So the way he looks at it, and again in the book, they're a lot more involved in a relationship. He's staying with her in her home. So he sees it upon himself that he needs to do something to protect her and reassure her that he's going to take care of her. So he lays down a trap over at Hubble's house. And that's what we're about to watch play out here. And the way that's done is the Bentley is going to be parked here over at Hubble's house. So that does one of two things. It makes people think that either Paul Hubble, who is presumed dead, is not necessarily dead and has come home, or Charlie's home, or Reacher, who's been seen driving the vehicle, is staying there. Who all three of them are targets. So this is to attract the cleaning crew that showed up over at Roscoe's home. So that's what the plan is in the book. Kind of similar here, but not the same kind of motivation. Now Finley's going to the Stevensons to go ahead and give notice to the parents of what happened. If you ever had this happen, you don't want to be on either side of this. Not the ones giving the news, not the ones receiving the news. All right, we got Kleiner Jr.'s pickup truck, nice and subtle. For some reason, when they come out here, they decide it's okay to come out in the rain without being covered. Now, the reason why they wear the cleaning crew suits, as it were, is so that they don't leave any evidence. That means head coverings, so they don't have any stuff come off of them, the gloves, no hair, no skin cells, things like that. But for some reason, they make the dumb decision of everybody needs to see our face tonight. Look how wet they are from being out in the rain. They must be getting the floor drenched. In case you missed it, sarcasm. They don't look wet at all, and I don't hear any squeakiness when they're walking around. This plays out a little bit differently. I think it works out to, visually to show how he's using his army training, letting the target get in there so that he can do his John Rambo thing. If you ever watched First Blood, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen First Blood, you really need to. I know that the Rambo sequels kind of get out of hand as far as like how many there are, each one trying to trump what the last one had did. But if you go back and watch the first one, it actually stands on its own. It's worth your while to watch it. Now, it seems like Venezuela has no shortages of men to go ahead and set up here to help Kleiner go ahead and get this done. In the book, like I said, the cousin here, who's a psychopath, does not exist. And if I recall in the book, it's actually Kleiner Jr. that's leading these teams. Now, there's some divide and conquer tactic. See, that's what the Asagi guy looks like. Was caught in the same rain. Yeah, so looking at this, we have Reacher straight up murdering people. Not exactly legal. Had he had been inside and defending himself, that would be self-defense. Laying in wait and ambushing these people is not self-defense. It would be very difficult to prove that's what's happened here. But in this town, I don't know what kind of defense he would have gotten even if he was inside of the home when this all started. Again, this plays out differently. I believe in the book, he actually starts out in the house, lying in wait for them. Now, I find it interesting. The floor is wet, and he's like, wait a minute. How is the floor wet? It was raining when you first got into the home. Those tracks could be one of your own people. But he thinks it's an intruder. Anybody play Gears of War? Now, the psychopath is taking Reacher to task. I don't know how many times you can get hit with the crowbar and shrug it off. That's metal. It doesn't give. I'm not an expert on Desert Eagle, so I don't know if it shoots underwater. I know a Glock supposedly can, but we'll just roll with it. Now, who cleans up the cleaning crew? I don't recall there being too many gunshots, so there probably weren't that many shells to go ahead and recollect. Now, this is out of character. Reacher has a hard time doing laundry, but It's just a reason for Alan Richardson to take off his shirt again. Yep. See, this is what the proper explanation of what he does is. What they were having him described as doing is a bit off. So this is how they're tying it together here for that ongoing kind of like joke where that's a whole lot of feed, more than the cows that he had there. Not a thing in the book at all. The other parts of it are accurate as far as they were doing this in a different town. The waste was in the water, which brought the FBI into it, basically an agent working on behalf of the EPA who was partnered with Picard, and they had to get rid of him. That's how they got Picard in. But the blockade is in place. And in the book, the blockade is to end on Sunday. The president had announced it because the president is running for re-election, and the blockade is not popular, despite it being effective. The reason why it is unpopular in the book is it costs a lot of money to maintain that blockade. This conversation doesn't happen in the book, mainly because Roscoe is kind of like not available because she's supposed to be watching Charlie in an undisclosed location. In the book, there's not cell phones that they would have. So this is just something they had to alter here because it's for a modern audience. But the part that doesn't make sense is if you're at a safe house, I don't think you'd want to have an active cell phone. That'll give away your location. It's a bit odd that she would do that. Now, Finley is at a motel. He's been fired and now he's being hunted. He thought that he was kind of safe since he was dispatched without actually having to die. Again, this isn't in the book, but I do love this scene. It's very entertaining. All right. It's a joke from Taken. If you haven't seen that movie, I recommend watching the first one. The second one's okay. The third one is not so great. Yep, they're on the hunt. I guess hope that there's nobody in the next room, right? Oh yeah. Get on your jorts and go. Oh yeah. Oh my. Finley and the Great Escape. Won't be long until they go and catch the other couple in bed. Or the only couple. Finley should have disabled that vehicle. And there he goes. Good job. Now they'll just have to steal another vehicle. Although, calling the cops there, they're already crooked, so. It's kind of like Morpheus and Neo there. Matrix reference. If you haven't seen The Matrix, seems to be a running theme this episode. A lot of recommendations for you to go and watch other things. He says it so nonchalantly. Yeah. Yeah, his parents' home. That's right. Now it's time to give the sad news. Like I said earlier, you don't want to be on either side of delivering that message or receiving it. Looking for an air conditioning box. And there's the money. Person who doesn't exist in the book, Neely. Here we go. They made some alterations here just so they could have a reason for Neely to be on the show. Chasing down somebody called the Viking, which was supposed to be a hitman, which was not something that existed in the book. All right. So that closes this episode here. Again, do want to thank you for coming to my channel to take a look at this. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, click the bell so you can be notified of when episode 8 is uploaded on my channel. All right. Thank you very much. And y'all have a good day, good night.